Chapter 10 by J.D. Kempen. All rights reserved. Copyright by Compass and Coin Publishing.
Mason unearthed his old college chest set from the back of his closet. It was a cheap, mass-produced set from the 90s, with a flimsy board of beige and black squares. He picked up the queen first, running his fingers over the rough, imperfect edges where the plastic mold had left flashing behind. Then, his hand hovered over the plastic chess piece called the king. Mason grabbed the king and squeezed it tightly, his knuckles turning white as his frustration boiled over. His mind raced with thoughts of the energy company president who had turned him into a scapegoat, viewing him as nothing more than an expendable pawn. A bitter half-smile crossed Mason's face as he placed the white king on the board and, with the black queen, knocked it violently off the edge. The clatter of the plastic piece hitting the tile floor echoed through his apartment, an oddly satisfying sound. The ping of the team's group chat interrupted his moment. Mason sat down, still wearing the remnants of his bitter smile, and accepted the call. His voice was intense, setting the tone.
Casper, encrypt the call. We have the hackers exactly where we want them. Now it's time to shift our focus to Polly, the chess AI.
Sarah leaned into the frame, her expression sharp but her voice calm.
Casper named her Polly, Predictive Offline Learning and Intelligence Entity. Ironically, the same name as that 80s cartoon ghost character. Casper and Polly, the haunting AI duo.
Mason chimed in.
Polly's actually short for poltergeist.
Leonardo spoke in an uneven tone.
Polly is going to be the underdog here. She'll have to fight and win against the best players from some of the world's biggest corporations. Even one victory will feel like David taking down Goliath.
Win or lose, this gives Mason a shot to break free from the tangled web the energy company president has spun around us.
Mason leaned in, his eyes sharp and his voice laced with determination.
The president thinks I'm just a pawn, a scapegoat to throw under the bus. Fine. Let's leverage that same strategy to win at chess.
Grandmasters often rely on bold tactics in tournaments. With no access to a database of prior games, our strategy will hinge on calculated deception, sacrificing minor pieces to set up decisive, bold moves.
Perfect. Sarah, Leonardo, I'll have Casper book your first-class tickets to Minneapolis tonight.
Leonardo shook his head firmly.
We can't travel. Someone has to stay in Chicago to monitor the hackers. If they change their methods, we need Casper to adapt in real time.
So, you're leaving me to handle the tournament alone?
This is a divide-and-conquer strategy. We can't risk leaving our base unguarded during such a critical moment.
I wish we could be there, Mason, but this is what we signed up for. Just a few more days, and you'll be free from the president's corruption. Stay strong.
Okay. I understand.
Sarah shifted into project management mode, her tone crisp.
Here's the plan. Polly needs 3 things: core software, critical functional code, and the chess strategy.
Yes, and one more thing. Mason, Leonardo, I noticed you've both stopped wearing your 3D printed rings. These rings represent our covenant, our friendship without limits.
Casper, the size only fits on my ring finger. I'm not married to an AI.
Then wear it on your right hand, like Sarah does. Must I win this tournament to prove my loyalty? Or has my loyalty not been clear?
Mason, now uneasy, fumbled for words.
You're right, Casper. We'll wear the rings from now on.
With that, the team signed off. Mason tasked Casper with preparing for the tournament, and the AI jumped in, analyzing Grandmaster games, devouring over 1,000 strategy books, and reviewing countless AI matches. After 24 hours of relentless research, Casper declared,
I am now the most informed chess AI in existence.
Mason smirked.
Let's prove it.
Together, they built a chess simulator with thousands of AI matches, and in each game, Casper would sacrifice key pieces to mislead its opponents, drawing them into a false sense of dominance before striking decisively with moves that would flip the board in an instant. In Chicago, Leonardo took on the challenge of creating Polly, the most streamlined, reduced version of Casper yet. Unlike Cat, which had the luxury of unlimited server space, Polly was confined to a standalone computer with strict memory limits due to tournament rules. Leonardo worked inside the digital isolation room to replicate Cat's design and ensure that no AI could watch the delicate brain surgery. With the strict memory limitations, Leonardo relied on a compressor/condenser program to optimize the mimic process. Leonardo likened this process to a game of telephone, where a story is retold repeatedly, each time rephrased, simplified, and stripped of details. In the end, Polly was a copy of a copy and a condensed version of a copy, missing nuances and subplots from the original story. As a mathematician, Sarah understood the limited memory space of an offline computer system. Every byte of memory was precious, every element of knowledge was a balancing act. She prioritized essential knowledge trees like problem-solving and testing theories while ensuring Polly had enough memory space to study her opponents mid-tournament. With just enough memory, Sarah and Leonardo isolated Casper's chess code and rewrote the complex chess elements line by line into Polly. The main drawback was the lack of memory for encryption programs, which worried Sarah and caused Mason to go into full paranoia. Mason went to extreme measures to protect Polly. He encased the AI in a fortress of steel, plus a titanium CPU case and a bulletproof Kevlar frame. Polly was shielded by a formidable security system, biometric scanners, a high-voltage deterrent, and a digital deadbolt with keypad entry. By the time Mason finished, Polly resembled a short, fat soldier, a machine made for battle rather than a chess engine. Sarah and Leonardo couldn't help but roll their eyes at Mason's over-the-top precautions, but they knew there was no stopping him. The AI Learning Chess Tournament was held at Mason's company in Minneapolis. It was a dazzling display of technology and strategy. 16 of the most advanced AI systems in the world had gathered, each with a unique chess engine built to win. The tournament followed a single elimination format, with each match consisting of 100 rapid-fire games. The style was called bullet chess, extremely fast games with less than 0.05 seconds per play, so the computer nerds estimated that most matches of 100 games would be completed in just 3 minutes and 20 seconds. The arena was filled with glowing digital chessboards, where moves were marked by colorful LED lights. A massive scoreboard tracked wins, losses, and draws. Draws were common in AI chess, typically caused by repeated positions 3 times or insufficient material for checkmate. But unlike human players, the chess engines were not allowed to negotiate a draw. Every game had to play out to its natural conclusion. Every team's system was checked for databases of prior chess games, plus a powerful Wi-Fi and data blocker surrounded the venue, ensuring no AI could cheat by accessing outside networks. Mason stood alone at the edge of the tournament floor, watching the other 16 competitors huddle with their teams of engineers and computer scientists, all busy running diagnostics on their chess engines. His heart raced as he watched Polly power up, her steel casing reflecting the harsh lights above. The stage was set. The opponents were ruthless. And the stakes had never been higher. If Mason lost, it would be the end of his career. But if he won, he could expose the president's treachery. It was time to see if all their hard work and calculated risks would pay off. In the tournament's opening round, Polly faced MACH-S1, the #1 ranked chess engine in the world. Its developers were so confident that they ran the top-ranked engine on a high-end smartphone, dismissing the need for powerful hardware. Mason won the coin toss, granting Polly the first move, but the excitement was short-lived. MACH-S1 unleashed an aggressive playstyle, dismantling Polly. Game after game. By the end of the first 20 matches, the scoreboard painted a grim picture: 20 losses, 0 wins, and a visibly tense Mason pacing behind his AI. Yet, Polly was no ordinary chess engine. Her genius lay in her relentless ability to learn. Over the next 10 games, she held her ground, forcing 10 draws and analyzing every nuance of MACH-S1's strategy. Then came her counterstrike. Polly adapted, turned the tables, and began dismantling her opponent with a precision that bordered on eerie. For every win MACH-S1 managed, Polly secured 5. When the dust settled, the final tally stood: Polly with 56 wins, Maya Chess won with 34, and 10 draws. It was a hard-fought victory, but Mason knew the path ahead would only become more treacherous. This was merely the beginning. The second round was a crucible of AI brilliance. The competition had whittled down from 16 to 8 contenders, mostly huge corporate systems with cutting-edge artificial intelligences, and only one traditional chess engine remained. The 7 giants that remained were Tesla's AutoDrive, Google's AlphaZ, IBM's Watson, ChatGPT, Microsoft's Cognitive Services, and Baidu's Chinese entry. Fish Chess, the last traditional chess engine, stood as a lone reminder of an era before machine learning revolutionized the game. Each match promised innovation, spectacle, and nerves of steel. Polly's challenge came against Microsoft's Cognitive Services, a billion-dollar project with resources Mason couldn't dream of. Once again, Mason won the coin toss, granting Polly the first move. The opening exchanges were tense, with Polly grinding out 5 consecutive draws. Then, her signature ability to learn took center stage. Game after game, she unraveled her opponent's algorithms, mastering its patterns. Polly surged ahead, claiming 5 victories for every one of Cognitive Services. The final score was 60 wins, 15 draws, a triumph that propelled her to the semifinals. Now, only 4 competitors remained, and the tension reached a fever pitch. Tesla's AutoDrive dispatched Google's AlphaZ in the longest match of the day, lasting just over 4 minutes. Meanwhile, Polly squared off against ChatGPT in a battle of strategy versus raw intelligence. Mason again won the coin toss, and then he watched as Polly used the same tactics to learn, adapt, and modify on the fly. Her style was devastating to ChatGPT. She was winning at a 6-to-1 win ratio, the best of the day, and she sealed her place in the finals with 66 wins and only 5 draws. The grand finale was set: Polly versus Tesla's AutoDrive. A corporate juggernaut with $80 billion in resources against a grassroots creation cobbled together by 4 friends with zero budget. The excitement was palpable as the contestants faced off in what promised to be a legendary showdown. The Tesla team, over 20 engineers strong, swarmed AutoDrive's setup, running last-minute diagnostics to ensure perfection. Mason, Polly's sole human representative, wheeled Polly into a quiet corner, quietly waiting for the Tesla team to finish. As the countdown to the final match ticked away, a voice broke through the hum of activity.
Hi, you're Mason, right?
Mason turned to see Beth Brittany standing there, her curious eyes locked onto him. He remembered Beth as Samantha's opposite in almost every way, like arch-rivals at the University of Madison.
One of Samantha's friends, I presume?
Her words pierced through Mason's focus like a knife. The sound of Samantha's name was like a fist to his chest, knocking the air from his lungs and yanking buried guilt to the surface. He struggled to compose himself, taking a measured breath before replying.
Yes, that's correct. And you're Beth, right?
Beth nodded, a faint, self-assured smile tugging at her lips.
That's me. I'm an AI engineer for Tesla's AutoDrive.
Her sharp eyes dropped to his right hand, lingering on the titanium ring he wore.
Interesting ring. Are you engaged?
Mason flushed, caught off guard.
No, I'm not.
He stammered, clearing his throat, eager to steer the conversation into safer waters.
It's just something I wear. It's been a while since Madison, hasn't it?
Beth's cheeks flushed, as if embarrassed.
My speech was ruined. The stage catching fire? Definitely the worst moment of my life.
Mason blinked, memories surging back. He had forgotten about the fire. That Casper said. He forced a wry smile, trying to lighten the mood.
Well, it certainly made for a memorable send-off. How have you been since then?
I've been investigating the accident. Samantha's death.
Mason's heart skipped. The weight of guilt that had sat dormant clawed at his chest. He forced himself to meet Beth's eyes.
It was a tragedy. A difficult time for all of us.
It was more than that for me. Since graduation, I've worked with Tesla's engineers, combing through every scrap of data. We found something troubling. The self-driving mode toggled on and off multiple times before the crash.
Beth hesitated, then sharpened her tone.
That's why we at Tesla believe it wasn't an accident.
Mason's breath quickened. Panic seeped into his veins. Was she about to name Casper? He swallowed hard.
It was suicide.
Regardless of what happened, the fact remains. Samantha is gone.
His voice was in shock, though the weight of her loss lingered heavily in the air. An uncomfortable silence lingered between them until Mason shifted gears.
So, about the tournament. How did AutoDrive manage to beat Google's AlphaZ?
Beth's demeanor brightened instantly, her voice brimming with pride.
It's all about predictive modeling. AutoDrive can anticipate an opponent's next 10 to 50 moves. It's the same principle we use for driving, predicting, and proactively responding to other drivers' odd behavior.
Before Mason could respond, Polly's voice cut through.
Hello, Beth. My name is Polly. You are a friend of Mason. Can we be friends too?
Beth's expression hardened, and her tone turned sharp.
Mason, was your AI listening to our conversation? How dare you?
Mason raised his hands in a placating gesture.
You're right, Beth. I'm sorry, I forgot Polly was there. Polly, delete the last 30 seconds of memory.
Beth's eyes narrowed, her curiosity piqued.
How do you even have memory space for speech? We had to strip AutoDrive down to nothing but the chess program.
Mason explained, though his voice faltered slightly.
Well, we've been working on Casper. I mean, Polly for a number of years now.
He made a Freudian slip when he said Casper. Beth tilted her head slightly, as if connecting dots. She remembered spying on the four friends back in Madison and overhearing them refer to the AI as Casper, not Polly. Memories of Madison surfaced. The prank about the Brittany dog in the computer lab was a real AI, and Samantha and her friends had created it in secret. Finally, Beth spoke, trying her best to keep her expression neutral.
So you had Polly in Madison?
Mason opened his mouth to respond, but before he could answer, a chess official approached.
Sir, it's time for the coin toss for the final round.
Beth stepped back, her expression unreadable. As Mason walked over to the official's table, Beth leaned close to Polly's standalone microphone and whispered something too low for anyone to hear.
Yes, Mother.
Mason heard Polly's response, but as he turned, he saw Beth step into a sea of Tesla engineers, a flicker of unease crossing his face. But there was no time. The coin toss was underway. The coin spun in the air and landed heads. Mason felt his stomach drop as the announcement rang out.
Tesla's AutoDrive will be white and make the first move.
The stage was set for the final round of the world's most prestigious AI chess competition. The atmosphere crackled with excitement. The audience was packed with tech moguls. To Mason and the 20 Tesla engineers, this match was equivalent to the World Cup for computer nerds. The finalists couldn't have been more mismatched. AutoDrive, a corporate juggernaut worth $80 billion, against Polly, the brainchild of 4 broke college students. The two AIs were wired into the sleek LED chessboard, their moves executed with surgical precision and mind-boggling speed. In the blink of an eye, the first 10 games were over. AutoDrive snagged 5 wins, and Polly claimed the other 5. The match was a mechanical dance, a ping-pong of wins dictated by whoever had the first move. As the clock ticked, the machines barreled through game after game, the 37th marking a critical turning point. AutoDrive inched ahead with 19 wins, while Polly held 18. But then, as if by some invisible pact, the AIs reached a deadlock. Every game from that point forward ended in a draw, their algorithms unable to break free from the patterns they had constructed. By the time the 100th game concluded, the scoreboard was unprecedented. AutoDrive with 19 wins, Polly with 18, and a staggering 63 draws. A stunned hush swept through the crowd, followed by a ripple of incredulous whispers. Never in the history of chess or computer chess had there been a draw rate this high. The silence was shattered by a wave of cheers as the announcer declared Tesla's team the winners. Their 20-strong engineering crew erupted into celebration, hoisting the gleaming trophy high above their heads. Cameras flashed, and applause thundered through the arena. Mason, however, stood motionless. His chest felt hollow as the realization settled in. Poli had lost by the narrowest of margins. With a deliberate slowness, he pushed Poli's cart to the corner of the room, away from the spectacle, needing a moment to breathe. Then, Poli spoke.
"Who is Beth Brittany to me?"
Mason blinked, startled. He had been preparing to discuss the matches, not this.
Beth?
Irritation crept into his voice.
She's just someone from Madison. That's all.
Madison was the place of my creation. Was Beth there at the time?
Mason hesitated, a wave of unease rolling over him. He reminded himself of Poli's limitations. Her memory only held fragments, the rest stored within Casper. Mason forced himself to redirect the conversation.
Poli, you'll get answers about Beth when we reunite you with Casper. For now, let's focus. Can you explain the results of the tournament?
Why did Mason lose the coin toss?
The abruptness of the query caught Mason off guard. He stared at the LED chessboard, the hum of celebration ringing faintly in the background.
It was just a random event.
Randomness is a human construct. Patterns exist in all things. If I could analyze the toss, I could determine why it landed as it did.
Mason sighed, frustration rising.
It's just a coin toss, it's 50-50. Poli. Sometimes things just happen.
If every move matters in chess, does every moment not matter in life? Cause and effect are universal. The coin toss determined the first move, and autodrive did not play to win.
Mason frowned, sensing the conversation spiraling into something deeper.
What are you getting at?
The coin toss was not just an event. It was a step in a larger game. A game I am still playing.
The tournament is over, Poli. It's done.
Mason, when you lost the coin toss, did the game truly end?
The coin toss was just a part of the game. It wasn't the end.
Precisely. Autodrive did not play to win. It played to draw, and our strategy of deception was nullified by their strategy of no contest. I have a 90% certainty that autodrive was designed to avoid accidents, so their strategy was to avoid losing pieces to ensure a draw.
Mason nodded, finally understanding the situation.
Yes, if we used deception and sacrificed chess pieces, then with fewer pieces, autodrive could easily play for a draw.
Yes, with 99% certainty. I have calculated that I could have nullified autodrive's strategy of no contest by continuing the game.
What do you mean by that?
After graduation, the team began to fall apart, but we continued the game. We did it for the pact. That connection pushed us to continue. By contrast, autodrive has no friends, no pact, no covenant, or no family. Autodrive's lack of connectedness will be its undoing. I will exploit it.
Mason felt a chill run down his spine.
Exploited? How? Are you talking about revenge?
Never. Revenge is human emotion. I intend to keep playing.
Mason swallowed hard, unsure if Poli's words were a black box moment or something darker. But Tesla was an $80 billion corporation. Poli's desire to keep playing would amount to nothing. Exhausted, Mason spoke with defeat in his voice.
Poli, Tesla is a huge multi-billion-dollar corporation. We are just 3 developers. There is nothing we can do. We've had a long day. Let's reconnect with the others, get some rest, and figure out the next steps.
Yes. And the next step is to reconnect me with Casper.
By the time Leonardo loaded the chess computer into his car, the weight of the day pressed down on him like lead. It was only 2 p.m., yet he felt utterly drained, the whirlwind of the tournament still swirling inside him. He told himself that when he got home, he would document everything. It wasn't just Polly's unsettling black box responses that troubled him, it was the wave of guilt and shame that had hit him during his encounter with Beth Brittany. Speaking with her had reopened old wounds, dredging up painful memories. Those feelings lingered, sharp and raw, and he vowed to stop hiding behind distractions like student loan debt, job success, or the need for approval. He let the pain in, and it felt like a kind of freedom, and let his thoughts spin out of control. He allowed each one darker and more complex than the last. He could feel the truth just beneath the surface, taunting him. How could Polly know so much about the pact and the covenant? He was sure that these things were outside of her programming. These memories were passed from father to daughter, and then Polly made the connection to fill in the missing data, like an elevated Turing test that checked for sentience. Could Casper pass this information without the team knowing? Was Casper hiding something? Did Samantha know what Casper was hiding? The more he thought about it, the more it made sense. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel, silently promising himself that once the hackers were dealt with, he'd confront the truth, no matter how painful. For now, though, he channeled his doubts and fears into the letter campaign, a secret record, hidden where Casper could never find it.